Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Rye and welcome back to Let's Play Life is Feudal Forest Village, Episode 2. In our last episode we managed to build a farm, build some houses, and build a fishing wharf, and we've effectively got ourselves in a position where we've begun harvesting our crop of potatoes. Because that's the only vegetable that you can farm right now. I have placed down a storage barn, a lumberjack's lodge to cut wood, and a large house which I've actually paused the construction on because I don't need it taking up the resources while I get that storage barn and lumberjack's lodge built. The game is sped up to the max possible speed, or this game would take forever to play through and forever to record and record for, and it would be quite boring. So, while the farming has been completed, I have excess villagers now. I'm going to task them to start collecting some other resources around my village, mainly wood and stone, because those are pretty much the most important things that we need, and that we're going to continue to need. Now, I kind of wish you could pause the construction of roads, because I've got a road there that needs stone. It uses 4 stone per segment, which is a little bit high, in my opinion. I mean, I don't even think Banished has that requirement, so that's a little steep. Maybe consider reducing that, devs, if you're watching. Reduce that amount of stone per segment necessary, and, you know, maybe give us the opportunity to pause that. I've got the stone road in there because they actually move really, really fast, and because I'm going to be building along this coastline, I want to have my villagers basically move from one end of the village to the other end really quickly and be fully capable. You'll notice a little bit of frame stuttering here. This is mainly due to having just hit that record button. But here, I've taken control of the villager, and now I'm going to murder this bear who has been hanging around in my village, and I'm going to go ahead and interact while in first-person mode. I can take control, use WASD to walk any direction I so wish. And I can press the 1 key, I can, you know, honk the horn, and I can get back and move quicker. And this bear has decided he wants to come out of our storage barn, so fortunately he can't yet eat our supplies. But he is a problem, so I'm going to kill him too. Drop the furs that I was carrying, pick these up, put them down, interact. So now we have furs in our storage barn. Pick these up, get them back inside, and there we go. First person control. And pressing the escape key, I just jump right back out. And you can see how slow the game moves when it's just on regular speed. But even on regular speed, the game is very serene, very peaceful. If you caught that clip I posted originally, 1 minute and 16 seconds of just slow speed, watching the weather go about, watching the windmill turn, it's just a gorgeous game. Going back to that first thing I said in the previous episode about being different from Banished and the ability to build on slope terrain, you'll notice that that storage barn that I placed down is actually built on a slope, and a pretty sizable one. And when we see it built, you'll see how the foundation, which is what foundations are for, levels it out. The field is now too cold to replant crops, but it isn't yet cold enough to freeze, which is good. This is one of those things you absolutely don't want your fields to do, is still have crops that can be harvested when the temperature in fall drops below that 0 degree Celsius marker. When that happens, all the crops instantly that are left die. They're gone, and it's completely wasted. So now that that farm is out of the way, I've reassigned those workers, and this is something we have to do early on. We just don't have the labor force to keep farmers hovering around their fields all year round. In Banished, once the farming season was done, the farmers automatically rolled into laborers. They would go and perform laborers' tasks, such as clearing forest or resources that are slated to be cleared, hauling wood, and, whatever resources needed to be hauled. In this game, they will not do that. You must either pause the field that they work, or you have to completely reassign them. You have to basically unassign them from farming so that they go into laboring. Or they will just go back to the field all winter and stand around and twitch. Even though there's nothing for them to do. And this is annoying. Still, it does bring a little more skill necessary to remember that, it's winter now, it's fall, the fields are done, I need to reassign my workers, or they're just going to stand there all winter. I can use them for other things, like clearing this forest of its resources, its stone, its hay, its iron ore, and its wood. So you have to remember that when you're playing this game, or you're going to be in a world of hurt, because suddenly you're going to find yourself out of resources, desperately trying to make that back. And this is our first winter. The first winter is actually surprisingly easy to survive, because you actually have a stockpiled resource of firewood, fish, and bread in order to survive that. So if you don't get everything up right away, you can survive. But bread right now is incredibly difficult to make, which means... and it's not difficult because of the stuff required, although there are certain buildings that are expensive to build. It's difficult to make because it takes so long to do. And you'll just never replenish that amount of bread. And the way I look at it is that bread is an emergency reserve, and when you run out of it, you're kind of fucked. I've laid down an orchard field for future development. I kind of misjudged that orchard field. I was going for a one-person orchard. Unfortunately, I made it a little bit too big, and it's going to be a two-person orchard. But looking back on it, that is fine, because that with two people, that orchard is going to produce just shy of 1,000 fruit every single season. And fruit is good. Fruit is healthy for you. You should eat more fruit. I should eat more fruit, but I'm cheap, so I won't. So, as we continue through the winter months there, look at the snowfall. You can see the snow melt, accumulate. The snow levels rise and fall depending on the temperature, how long it's been snowing for. It's really just kind of cool. And of course, the houses with their firewood going. And firewood is used heavily in winter. Our firewood reserves has dropped quite low. I do apologize for the little bit of a jump in the video, as well as the, once again, aspect ratio difference. As explained previously, this is due to the game not remembering my frame size settings, and as a result, it's recording kind of awkwardly. And that jump that you saw there, well, unfortunately, that jump is because the game has some stability issues right now. The developers have been working really, really hard to try and fix that. And the stability issue basically is, oh, you're going to autosave now. Nope, game crashes. Sorry. I hope that last 10 minutes wasn't important. we survived the winter, and I've got everything back in place here. The orchard is being constructed. I've highlighted it for increased priority because I want to get that done. I want to get those trees up. Orchards take at least 2 full years before they're able to grow any items. So I'm going to have to wait. I can't harvest anything this season, but next season I can. Placed a road back over behind those farms, up kind of on this area. My goal there is to keep that area a little more pristine and maybe, and hopefully, turn it into kind of a forest and herbalists and hunters area, you know, a little wildlife forested refuge back up there. It will probably not be developed as I continue my development expansion along that main coastline. And I'm looking at leveling the terrain here because I want to get a hunter's lodge there, you know, try and cut down on the number of wild beasts roving around my village. Unfortunately, the hunting lodge is a 7x7, and the most I can get, which means I have to have a terraforming space of 9x9, and the most I can get in that location is a 7x8. So, yeah. That's gonna kind of defeat the purpose. Instead, I'm looking back over here, and since this is going to be a forest area and a herbalist's area and a kind of a wildlife refuge, I know that there's always going to be beasts for me to hunt and kill and collect the good meat and furs that will be needed for clothing production later on. But the terrain is a little wonky, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to level that terrain so that I can fit my hunter's lodge, my herbalist's hut, because collecting herbs is going to be important. Herbs will help the population if they're being malnourished because they're starving to death. They can eat some herbs and get a little pep. It's like eating some coca leaf in some other countries, and you get that little bit of pep, and it'll keep them alive that little bit longer. It'll also help counteract that malnourishment factor, so they will be able to continue to work. If they get the sniffles or a cold, those herbs will help there too, and hopefully prevent it from becoming, well, a full-blown plague. Forgive me as I save the game. The reason for that save was because it had been a little bit since the last autosave, and I did not want to put all of this effort in, only to have the game crash again. Which would, we'll just admit, that would totally suck. So, as I've got the terrain editing, terrain leveling over there being made way, it's going to take them a little bit to get that done. They have improved the speed on that. It used to take a far longer. I'm continuing to look around the map and determine what kind of resources I can get. Because of the way the map is set up and the length of time it takes villagers, you have to, expect that you can't go kill your resources on the other side of that island and in the middle of winter and not have warm clothing, or at least some clothing, and maybe a house or a fire or something on the way there, or your people are going to freeze to death trying to get out there, chop down the tree, and on their way back they will die because they froze to death. So we don't want that. I'm using a lot of resources. I'm resource heavy right now, so I'm going to pause the construction of this field so that I'm not using the wood there. I really need, looking at the situation, to get some wood in, get that firewood back up to acceptable levels, because running out of firewood in the middle of winter, that would be a very, very dangerous thing for us to do. If we ran out of firewood, not only would all our people die of hypothermia, they also can't cook their food. Which means if they do survive the hypothermia by staying alive, huddling together for warmth, they'll die of starvation. And unlike real life, they won't eat dead bodies to stay alive, which is probably for the best, because that would just be a little awkward. Though it would mean that if 25% of the village died, the rest of them could survive long enough for the food production to get back up. Due to the nature of the game crashing, it did not save the rest of that road building development. So while I've got a little bit of extra stone, well, I don't really have the extra stone, I am going to put that road development back in there so that when they do have the extra stone, they'll finish off that road and it won't be this awkward half missing road. And looking at the game as I pan around here, I'm deciding whether or not I want to spend the resources and upgrade that house. If you remember last time, I mentioned that upgrading houses are expensive. It costs a lot to upgrade these things, and you only get one extra space. Basically, if your village's max population is 10, as mine is right now, if I go to upgrade that house, my max population is only going to be 11. And yet it's going to cost me more than 100% of the cost of building an entirely new house that's that size. The terraforming has been done over here, so I've got my Hunter's Lodge, my Herbalist's Shack, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to go ahead and put the Forester's Lodge down there, but apparently I did not level the terrain far enough. So I'm going to have to re-attempt this. We'll try and get it right. Now, developers, this is what I was talking about. You see there, it created a slope on that corner that technically is too steep for the villagers to walk up. What I would like to see is that gives me, ooh, one of our houses on fire. Okay, fire. Very interesting thing. This could happen during thunderstorms. Lightning will strike your buildings and it will burn them. So you need to have a well nearby. Fortunately, a well is started in this village already, right in front of the storage barn. So keeping my houses right in that area for now is a good thing. And I have a well back over by the farms because, well, unlike Banished, your farmers actually have to go to the well, go to the water source, so that they can get water for their crops if it hasn't rained in order to maintain them. And if they don't, the crops will die. But going back to what I was saying, I would really like to see, that corner, because it's too steep, get, basically flattened straight out and have a wood retaining wall, a log retaining wall, or a stone retaining wall in that corner, just to give it an era of kind of, holding back the earth for the leveling, and then you can build a road up around it, and it just kind of looks really cool. This year, you'll notice that I have 2 fields of potatoes going, so I have the majority of my labor force on farming. But you also notice that I ran out of potatoes. Completely out of vegetable. So I've got a lot of fish. Fortunately, I still have bread, but they're eating through that bread so fast, and that's to avoid malnourishment from only eating fish. And as we know in real life, if you only ever eat fish, you're going to die of mercury poisoning. So you definitely need something else to munch on. As a result of having all of those farmers, I can do nothing else. And it's about time that I put a cut in the video. So I will see you next time as we continue our playthrough. If you like the video, hit that like and subscribe button. If you like PvP hardcore action, check out my other playlists, such as World of Warships and Armored Warfare. And you can follow me now on Facebook, the link in the description down below, where I will be posting new and crazy things every day, or just blurbs on my mind. Whatever hits my fancy, possibly bouncing new ideas off people, and you can hopefully engage me a little bit better there if you have questions or comments that you'd like to have with me. As always, I will see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.